This is the Space80 Apollo by GrayStudio, which I purchased in July of 2021 last year, and it just got delivered. In this video, I will be reviewing it by going over some of the specs, the quality, design choices, sound tests, and whether it's worth picking up in the aftermarket or potential future runs. Long story short, this will be my main keyboard for a while. It's absolutely stellar and pretty flawless, except for one tiny thing which I'll talk about. It's actually a very minor issue and there's a workaround to it as well. But also, personal opinion, you don't have to mod this keyboard to make it sound better. Let's dive in. The Space80 is a TKL mid $400 gasket mounted keyboard that comes in a handful of different colors that are the same palette from the Space65 and Think65. The colors with anodized finishes are Deep Ocean Blue, Mecha 01 Purple, Robocop Gray, Black Shadow Black, and Deep Green. Colors with electrophoresis are the Stormtrooper White, Cream, and Bruce Lee Yellow. It is also compatible with VIA and QMK out of the box, but at the time of making this video, I did have to import the JSON file for VIA to detect the keyboard. You do get the options for WinKey or WinKeyless layouts, in which case I opted for WinKeyless in the Robocop Gray finish here. The anodizing quality is excellent with no marks, blemishes, or inconsistencies on the outside, and I also couldn't spot any on the inside as well for both top and bottom cases. There's also a small Apollo LED badge above the arrow keys that can be swapped out for different colors if you bought those extras via 4 small hex screws. Space80 is held together by 8 screws which can be unfastened from the bottom. Something I really like about the shiny brass weight at the bottom case is that it does not fully extend horizontally across. In my experience, keyboards that have a shiny piece of weight across the bottom case from edge to edge always makes me not want to pick it up because of how easily they grab fingerprints. Although, that's not much of an issue as you can easily wipe it clean. It's just the fact that I can pick up my keyboard knowing I won't be touching the shiny bottom piece is nice. When the LED lights are turned on, it looks like the weight is floating, which is very unique. The rest of the package content also includes a couple pour-on foam layers for vibration dampening between the PCB and bottom case, and a thinner switch dampening layer that goes on top of the PCB, similar to how APE foam would be installed. There's an FR4 plate with a gray silicone dampening layer that comes pre-attached, and during the installation process, I found it to be quite thick where the switches could not be fully inserted into the PCB. Now this is not a problem since the PCB that I got is for soldering, so the tip of the switch pins just need to stick past out far enough through the backside of the PCB for a good decent solder contact. However, if this was a hot swap PCB, I think there'd be some fitment issues brought up. Alternatively, GrayStudio does provide you with a softer pour-on dampening layer that came in the same bag with the PC or polycarbonate plate in place of the gray silicone, so it is a bit more forgiving due to the softer material during the switch installation process. With it, you will be able to fully push your switch pins through the PCB. During my build process, I found that the silicone and pour-on foam layers did not have much of a difference when it came to sound dampening, so it doesn't matter which one you use since this is a solder PCB only kit. I personally went with the gray silicone dampener with FR4 plate in my final build because I like the extra weight in my keyboard. The heavier the better. Going back to package content, there are gaskets you can place either on the edge of the plates, which are labeled, or you can apply them into the top and bottom case themselves, in which I chose to apply them into the cases. There are some rubber feet, which is typically the first thing I install with pretty much every keyboard build. Additionally, GrayStudio does provide a nice handy screwdriver, a pair of tweezers, and extra screws for you to use throughout the build. The keyboard itself also does not have a lot of flex when it comes to typing due to the 2 silicone and pour-on vibration dampening layers sitting between the PCB and bottom case, so the Space80 will be providing a more stiffer and solid typing experience. Moving on to the RGB. I only like certain parts of the design choice of the LED diffusers in the Space80. It's got a very subtle, partially protruding piece on the badge above the arrow keys, as well as the outlining layer around the edge of the case when viewing from certain angles. It fits the theme well and really displays the idea of a futuristic console or panel. More on this later. However, the LED diffuser above the arrow keys is the small flaw I mentioned at the beginning of the video. If you even press gently down onto it with your fingers, it will sink into the cutout that holds it in place. To fix it, you just simply have to open up your top case and push it back up using a tool that can fit. Now this can be a bit of a nuance if you happen to run your fingers across and pushing it down every time, but one workaround you can do is you can just push the diffuser back into the cutout so it's flush without having to worry anymore. But I feel that that sort of defeats the purpose of having that cool protruding diffuser design in the first place. Here are the specs in my personal final build. I installed all the foam and silicone layers it came with, chose the FR4 plate with the gray silicone dampening layer, Band-Aid modded the PCB for the Duroc V2 stabilizers that are lubed with BDZ grease and Krytox 205 grade 0. As for the switches, I chose Gateron Black Ink V2s based on popular vote via my social media posts, which have been lubed with 205 grade 0 and TX filmed. Keycaps are the GMK Moto 2 to match the color of the case, and the final assembly comes in at around 2.2 kilos, which is just under 5 pounds. Alright, let's jump into the sound test. FR4 only sounds slightly higher pitched than the PC plate, but in all honesty, it's not a big enough difference to me. I also chose FR4 for a better and easier build experience, along with the fact that I just like how FR4 plates look. In comparison to Mr. Suit and Mode 80, I find Space80 Apollo to be a bit more muted. In terms of typing flex, all of my builds are fully loaded so they're all equally stiff. I do really like the typing angle at 5.5 degrees since I prefer a lower profile as it feels better for my wrist. Higher angles like the Mr. Suit that I have sitting at 8 degrees is less ideal for me but is still manageable. Final thoughts. Going back to my comment about the RGB design choice earlier and how I said I only liked certain parts, I think Space80 looks too aggressive from the side. It's too gamery or gamerish, as I do prefer a more minimalistic look like the Mode 80 or Mr. Suit. But the thing is that it fits the idea of a futuristic space piece, so it makes sense. However, I think if I had a say in it, I'd prefer just a straight seam, kind of like the drop control keyboard, just going around the sides and the top. Overall, I think this is a fantastic keyboard. If I had missed the group buy myself, I most definitely would have tried to sort this out in the aftermarket or try to find a good deal on it. GrayStudio did a really good job on this one. Alright, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.